Hello and welcome to Newsfeed, your daily dose of what people are talking about online, from news stories to what's trending. Now, voting is underway in the U.S. midterms to elect reps at the federal, state, and local levels. Democrats currently control both the upper and lower houses of Congress, but only by a thin margin. And polls show the Republicans have a good chance of retaking one, if not both chambers. Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk, has jumped in with his recommendation for undecided or independent voters: cast your ballot for Republicans. In case of a Republican sweep, Biden would still hold the presidency, and Musk told his 114 million Twitter followers that a divided government would stop what he called the excesses of both sides. Democrats, needless to say, were not happy about the recommendation, calling Musk complicit in Republican plans to end American democracy by refusing to recognize election results. But others question whether Musk's endorsement reflects a change in Twitter's own policy, accusing partisan rivals of misinterpreting the billionaire's words. And of course, there was a parody account posing as the Twitter chief. It recommended users vote Democrat, but unlike Musk, this Twitter user may not have as much sway and only boasts one follower, at least for now. If Musk's musings weren't disruptive enough, there's another wild card in the U.S. midterms. Russian mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin is a wannabe disruptor. He's the head of the Wagner Group, a Kremlin-aligned private army that human rights groups say is responsible for bloody coups across Africa and atrocities against civilians in Syria and Ukraine. Prigozhin recently boasted about interfering in American politics using social media. TRT World Defense analyst Ubay Shabandar examines his claims.
He was known as Putin's chef. Yevgeny Prigozhin, a once shadowy figure, has recently publicly come out admitting something that was essentially an open secret: that he is in fact in charge of the Wagner Group, a private mercenary company that is closely linked to the Kremlin. But in addition to deploying fighters to places like Ukraine, Syria, and Central Africa, Prigozhin has also set up a state-of-the-art hub for spreading disinformation across the world. He's even gone as far as openly declaring his attempts to interfere with the U.S. elections. Now, Prigozhin's trolls typically work like this. They'll set up websites and social media accounts impersonating media outlets, think tanks, and political advocacy groups from other countries. One example of this is the United World International website and Facebook page that was once administered by Daria Dugina, who was killed in a car bomb under mysterious circumstances in Moscow this summer. Prigozhin's strategy is to fan the flames of division, and in some cases extremism, in the hopes of weakening Russia's adversaries. But despite his bravado, the effectiveness of his methods are in doubt. Social media companies like Facebook have been quick to shut down accounts linked to Prigozhin's trolls. And it's unclear if Prigozhin's fake news factory has been able to actually impact voters' decisions.
From Russian interference to another controversial element of the primaries, they're expected to cost the world's largest economy about $17 billion. That astronomical sum makes them the most expensive midterms ever. Now compare that to the $100 billion, not even 6 times more, that's needed to mitigate the effects of climate change, or start saving the planet, basically. Let's dive a bit more into that, as the spotlight at COP27 summit this year is how rich nations are failing abysmally to meet their so-called fair share of climate funding. Poor countries have been promised $100 billion a year since 2009. The target is a minuscule amount compared to what is actually needed to curb the climate crisis. But a report by Carbon Brief shows that the US, along with Canada, Australia, and the UK, are still not giving anywhere near that amount. Instead, they've accumulated massive debt to countries that are suffering the most on the front lines of the environmental crisis. Yikes! Well, at least we still have countries like Japan, which is providing more than its share. In his debut appearance on the international stage, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak pledged to triple aid to the most climate-vulnerable countries.
I spent last week working on the difficult decisions needed to ensure confidence and economic stability in my own country. But I can tell you today that the United Kingdom is delivering on our commitment of £11.6 billion. And as part of this, we will now triple our funding on adaptation to £1.5 billion by 2025.
At this COP meeting, leaders of the developing world have been more vocal about the urgency of the situation than those with bigger economies. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, was among the ones who launched a stinging attack.
The simple political will that is necessary, not just to come here and make promises, but to deliver on them and to make a definable difference in the lives of the people who we have a responsibility to serve, seems still not to be capable of being produced.
She also says the rich have prospered at the expense of the poor, yet the most needy are expected to fend for themselves. Well, basic justice demands the opposite. Those who cause the most damage to the environment should cushion the blow to those who suffer the consequences. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says no one is immune from the climate crisis. He tweeted, "The world is on a highway to climate hell with our foot on the accelerator." He says the Earth is fast approaching tipping points that will make climate chaos irreversible. A rather scary warning indeed. At climate summits, activists and journalists play a crucial role to get the message out. But this year, they're having some difficulties. Attendees have reported that they've been unable to visit news websites essential for information during the talks due to them being blocked by the conference's Wi-Fi. They say the blockages might be part of Egypt's efforts to separate key climate negotiations from human rights issues. Nevertheless, Amnesty International, whose site is accessible, is set to hold a panel with Human Rights Watch, which has been blocked by the government since 2017. While authorities temporarily lifted bans on voice-over internet protocol calls for COP27, like WhatsApp calls, activists have been complaining about the blocked sites online. The media manager of Amnesty International, Stefan Simonovitz, reposted a tweet by the founder of Earth Uprising, Alexandria Villaseñor, as her official profile is locked. She says the bans were making activists and journalists' jobs significantly harder, and she cannot reach Earth Uprising's website along with several news outlets. Turkey is hosting Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson. The Nordic country is trying to get Turkish approval to join NATO. Sweden, along with Finland, have abandoned their policy of non-alignment, which entailed effectively staying neutral during NATO-Russian tensions. Since the conflict in Ukraine, the two countries have sought to join the Western alliance, fearing Russia could target them next. But Turkey has beef with Sweden over their support for the YPG terror group and harboring both PKK and FETÖ terrorists. Turkey will block Sweden's NATO application until they stop supporting those terror groups and their affiliates. TRT World's Hassan Abdullah has more from the Turkish capital.
Sweden's new Prime Minister has been in Turkey this week seeking Turkish support to join NATO. The head of the Directorate of Communications of Turkey, Fahrettin Altun, has tweeted saying that this could be a historic moment. Now, Turkey is demanding that Sweden and Finland prove that they're not providing any support to terrorist organizations like the YPG, PYD and FETÖ. And also, Turkey is demanding of Sweden that it lifts any restrictions on the Turkish defense sector. We've had Fahrettin Altun tweeting saying that if these conditions are met, then this could be a historic moment and Sweden, as well as Finland, could be members of NATO soon.
All right, on to what's trending. What would you do with $3 billion in Bitcoin? Well, I certainly wouldn't keep my private keys for that money in hard drives under my floorboards, but then again, I'm not a criminal. But James Jong is a fraudster, and under the floorboards in a popcorn tin hidden in a safe is where he hid the keys for his 50,676 Bitcoin. The U.S. Department of Justice has announced that it seized the $3 billion worth of Bitcoin from Jong last year, but he's now forfeited the hefty sum to the DOJ after recently pleading guilty to wire fraud, 9 years after stealing the Bitcoin from the darknet Silk Road online marketplace. Now, Silk Road was a hub for people to sell drugs and other illegal goods in exchange for Bitcoin until it was shut down by the feds in 2013.
For all of you that don't know what Silk Road is, it basically was an online black market where you could buy and sell a lot of stuff, including organs. You get the point. But how did he do it? He manipulated Silk Road's withdrawal system by triggering 140 transactions in rapid succession. It fooled the system into crediting several external wallets with the Bitcoin. From there, he transferred the Bitcoin into different external wallets, stealing over 50,000 Bitcoin. And to think this dude was just chilling in Georgia with $3.3 billion.
So when is the Bitcoin going to hit the market? Is the U.S. Justice Department going to auction it off anytime soon?
From one scam to another. Now, you may know this influencer from Instagram, where he had almost 3 million followers. This is Hush Puppy. He's known for snaps of his luxe life, and don't even mention the bling. And his larger-than-life Instagram personality is what helped U.S. authorities nab him for his role in running a massive international fraud syndicate. An LA court has sentenced Hush Puppy, whose real name is Ramon Abbas, to 11 years in prison. The Nigerian scammer was arrested in Dubai 2 years ago. U.S. prosecutors say he was one of the most prolific money launderers in the world. Officials say he used social media to show off the immense wealth he'd acquired through email scams, online bank heists, and other kinds of cyber fraud that financially ruined thousands of victims. And his social media posts were ultimately used as evidence in the U.S.'s case to put him behind bars. So maybe it's not the wisest thing to brag so openly online about your ill-gotten gains. All right, some good news now. You complained, and Airbnb has listened. Airbnb has announced it'll crack down on hidden costs. So things like cleaning fees that are currently only factored in upon checkout will soon be advertised in the initial search results. The so-called junk fees were one of Airbnb's most complained about features. CEO Brian Chesky says Airbnb will roll out the new option next month, making all included costs clearer for customers while they search for places to stay. It also get rid of unreasonable checkout tasks like vacuuming, dusting all surfaces, washing bed sheets, and doing other laundry. Airbnb of late has faced growing criticism for what customers see as increasingly ridiculous checkout tasks and unexpected cleaning fees. These changes come amid a broader crackdown on hidden fees by the Biden administration. And finally, we have a weird story for you. A man on TikTok built an enormous sarcophagus just to preserve a bag of flaming hot Cheetos for future generations to find. He says it's not supposed to be open for another 10,000 years. The artist shared a video of the months-long process on the platform, which got over 10 million views. The project has cost him over $1,000, and if you were ever concerned about flaming hot Cheetos going extinct, worry not. He embossed the ingredients on the giant coffin as well. Personally, I'm into Walker's salt and vinegar. Right, that's all for Newsfeed today. Find the show on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. Bye and see you same time tomorrow.